One of the questions we get asked the very most is, do you have a therapist you can recommend for me? And while we wish that we knew of therapists in every single place, in every single part of the country, we don't. So what do we tell them instead, Mel?
We say check out BetterHelp because it's online, it's at a reasonable price, and you can be matched with a therapist within 24 hours. I've also used them and they have been great. And if you don't like your therapist, guess what? Click, and get a new one.
Absolutely. It's so hard when you have an in-person therapist, if you're not clicking with them, to cut them off and get a new one. So that's not an issue with BetterHelp. So we always tell people to try BetterHelp. And if you use our promo code, which is
trybetterhelp.com/WWDN,
you get 10% off your first month.
Go ahead and try it out. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. And you know what? I'm a big fan of doing therapy where you don't have to wear pants, but nobody knows about it.
Are you wearing pants right now, Mel?
I'll see you later. Bye. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Well, good afternoon, good morrow, good evening to you all.
Yes, welcome. I guess depending on the time you listen to this, it could be any of those times of day.
This is true. The guest we're talking today came to us in a very interesting way.
Is this one of our synchro swimming sorts of things?
Kind of, yeah. So my neighbor went somewhere. I don't even know where. She probably didn't even tell me. She got home and she texted me and she was like, hey, so I was on an airplane with some guy and I don't know how they got on this topic, but it turns out that he is widowed. And can I give him your information? And I was like, sure. Anyway, so that's how we came to know this fellow named Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Where were you flying to? Do you remember?
Nope, I don't remember. I think we were actually flying home. So we got seated next to each other on the same flight.
Where's home?
Home is Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wait, you live in Salt Lake?
I do.
What? I didn't know this part. I thought you probably
Yes.
lived somewhere far away. We live there too. Okay.
I assumed as much.
He
Yes.
probably knows that part.
When you said
Okay.
neighbor, it gave it away.
That is true. Okay, so I'm curious. You're just sitting next to this random lady on a flight. How did it come up that you had both been widowed?
Well, we're both heavy talkers, so I think that helps out. So we just we were just chatting about. She's super nice and engages with most people. She's just one of those that really brings people together. And we were just chatting about kids and life, and I had mentioned that things were just a little bit complicated on my end because I lost my wife, and she told me that she was in a similar predicament with her husband. And so we just had a long discussion about how that happened, what happened, resources, just kind of everything.
So wait, Anita, your neighbor is a widow.
Oh, yeah, she is widowed, but it has been like 20 something years. So she was widowed 20 something years ago. She had twin infants and then another child at the time. And her husband died kind of like yours, Mel, like he had a surgery and then just like died after, like a knee surgery. So, yes.
So weird. Oh man.
Yeah, we just got to share our stories because we both had young kids at the time, and so I think that led us into a lot of discussion on survival and how-tos. And then y'all came up.
She was like, I have a neighbor. She's
Yes,
And here we are recording you. Thank you for being here.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Before we get into your story about how you became widowed and on all those things, will you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, what do you do? Where did you grow up? What types of things do you like doing?
Sure. Uh, it's a lot to that. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. I spent 21 years here, and then I did my master's program in Washington. I wanted a bigger city and to have skyscrapers and things like that. So I went to Seattle and started my career, worked there for 3 to 4 years and hated the rain. I couldn't stand the grogginess and the overcast. So I
oh,
moved to California, San Diego, where it's sunny all the time and I could get in the water, and I loved it there. I'm an accountant by trade. I was a CPA and worked for a major firm, and then went to various companies, and I've been at the same company now for 12 years, which is Qualcomm, and really love it there. And I met my wife in San Diego, and then we moved to Texas uh, just for about 3 years. Yeah, about three and a half years. So about half when she was alive, and then half when she had passed. And so I moved back to Salt Lake City in order to simplify life a little bit. And so I'm here now. Some of the things that I love to do is pretty much everything nerdy. I love board games that are physical board games, playing with my buddies.
Wait, a physical Oh, physical board game, just like it actually
Like
exists,
not
like not
online.
online.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
was like, what is a physical
Yeah,
board game?
I guess you don't
Like,
need that. Like it was like I'm very used to saying that from COVID. It's
A
okay,
like
twister, Anita, a twister.
that is a
that's a
physical
good
board game.
point. I should
Okay.
say complicated board games is what I like to play. Um, I love all sports, volleyball, disc golf, like I said, real ball golf as we call it. Um, I love to dance, ironically enough. So I do like Latin dancing, salsa and bachata. Um,
You do a lot of things. I have a disc golf question because we're
yes,
sometimes in our travels and also even sometimes here in Utah, I see random disc golf little baskets.
baskets.
I don't know anything about it, and I only did traditional sports, and I've never seen people play it because they're always empty whenever we're there. What is it a big sport? What's the deal?
It's growing. It's growing really, really, really fast. I got into it at COVID, so most of the disc golf courses are actually on public grounds. So they'll be in a park where it's just really beautiful, and they'll set up a basket and kind of establish a course layout. And then you just bring frisbees, and it's the same way as golf. You have drivers, mid-range, and putters, and then you just try to throw it into the basket as a few times as you can. It's really beautiful. It's a really fun sport. You walk everywhere. You can bring kids, dogs, just everybody kind of loves it. Most places it's free, which is another amazing thing. But then there's some really advanced courses which are just beautiful and huge. Like for example, in uh, here in Utah, you can play in solitude. So you can take the ski lift up and then play the entire mountain down, which is super fun. I loved
Wow.
doing that. And it's just a great sport. I rave about it. There's an online app that you can get that'll tell you where all the courses are and where to go, and it just tracks your GPS and it tells you all that you need to know. It's a really inexpensive sport to get into, and it's super fun.
Fun fact. I'm a fairly coordinated person, played a lot of sports in my life, cannot throw a frisbee. Like I just
Same.
can't do it. And it kind of makes me mad because I feel like I should be able to do it. But
I've had a lot of friends say the same thing, and I basically lead in with if you've thrown a ball, if you're really, really good at throwing a ball, then
I'm
you
really,
can
really
throw,
good at throwing a ball.
then I can teach you to throw a frisbee forehand. There's two ways to throw a frisbee, and there's one's forehand. And so
Okay. Let's meet at Solitude and we'll do
there
it.
we go. Maybe an easier course.
Okay.
When the snow melts, Anita will mountain bike you up the hill. You She'll put you in a little like trailer or something behind her bike. She loves ascending, and then you
Yes.
guys can play on the way down.
Perfect. I would love to get into bike riding.
That was really important. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
I really did need to know. All right,
I could
Anita.
talk about this for hours, so feel free to ask any questions you have.
Okay, Nick, tell us about
Yes.
your person. Let's hear about her.
Okay. My wife, Sheena Nageli, Sheena Smith, prior to being married. We met in San Diego, California. She was a pediatric chiropractor, so she loved
What? Wow.
families and kids. She was very, very gifted. She was one of those people that you could ask, what do you do now? And if you could do anything in the world with the ever, what would it be? And she says, I'm doing now what I would always want to do. And there are very few people that I feel like can answer that way. And she was one of them. So she was a lactation consultant and a doula, and she just helped moms everywhere. And so she was coveted and just very amazing. I met her online, as a, a lot of people do that have that are antisocial. So that was me. And we got married in California. We had one boy, Leo, in 2019, and then COVID kind of shut everything down. It unfortunately really heavily impacted her practice. And so we just decided to move to Texas, where she was from, a little bit further south, to kind of be closer to family and get a little bit more help. Um, and she was awesome with our boy. And then we got pregnant with number two, and um, just great. Everything went super well. It was an awesome birth. Unfortunately, she contracted what we believe to be a blood infection of some sort. I don't have all the details, but it was really crazy because an ER ran a blood panel and it didn't show up on the blood panel. And unfortunately, a short, like 20 hours after they ran that blood panel, she passed away from the various thing that they were testing. Um, so I'm not exactly sure the details of all of it in terms of scientifically speaking what had happened, but it was just very abrupt. It was something that we didn't think there was much wrong. It was just normal.
So was this right after she delivered the baby?
No, it was
No.
5 days. So
Okay. So
she
still in the zone of
it was yeah, it
postpartum.
was
Yeah.
really fast. So she was just kind of, in pain, which is normal. She developed a small fever, which can be normal. She had mastitis in the past, and so fevers can be normal. She just wasn't experiencing anything abnormal until we took her to the ER, where her leg was swelling a bit, so we were concerned with clotting.
Hmm.
And so we took her to the ER. They said no blood clots and no blood infections or infectious diseases. They sent us home with some antibiotics, and unfortunately, whatever it was in uh, did get into the blood, and then it passed into the brain where it caused swelling, and that's unfortunately what um, killed her.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So,
I
oh,
don't approve.
No, it was nobody really knows. I really don't have any of the details. That's kind of like the God blessing for me, was that there's I can't point it back to me, which I think is really helpful for me. I think men that lose their wives have a really hard time with, I should have done more and I could have done more, and man, I should have stepped up and I didn't. And so I think there was so much cloud there that it really helped me kind of get past that. There was little that I could do or try to do during
yeah.
the process.
Spoiler alert. Females do the same thing. There's a lot
Yeah, yeah.
like guilt in a spousal or partner death is an almost universal experience. It's just like I should have done that differently. I could have done that differently. And almost always it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
and you can't do anything about it. So yeah. Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020, and unfortunately, on this side, it's a bad 2020.
So you have a 5-day-old baby and your wife passes away. Like what in the
And I
world?
have a 3-year-old boy as
Who
well.
was probably Satan himself at that point in time. Or maybe not. Maybe he was a cutie pie as a 3-year-old, but I've had a few Satans.
Just to warn you, Anita speaks in more of the Satan terms for her life. Don't be alarmed.
That's okay.
3-year-olds are great, but
Yeah, it was a lot, and uh, thankfully, I'm very hands-on with our first, so I knew a bit about it, but I was left. I didn't know how to breastfeed because I'm a male. So I was left with a lot of things that were unknowns. But yeah, it was my baby was 5 days old, and then my boy was just three. And so just trying to figure out that was uh, horrible. It was really, really rough.
what year was this? How long has it been?
2023. So it's
Okay.
almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in April.
So now you have an almost 2-year-old and an almost 5-year-old.
Almost, yeah, he's 5.5. So
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. You've made it this far. I just want to
I did.
congratulate you because
Thank you. Yeah,
it's a major feat.
that's always, that was kind of my thoughts, was like, okay, I just need to survive 3 years because the baby stage is just so overwhelming. It's beautiful for a lot of people, but man, it was just hard, especially in grief, just missing someone that I got to see raise one, and then I got to realize how much we were missing in number two, especially because I was dealing with grief and I had to let a lot of other people help out. Like I had to hire basically full-time nannies to come in and help me out just because I couldn't get it all done. And I'm was the provider, so I had to go back to work at some point in time. So I had to make my life work without having my person take care of our little baby.
Hey guys, just checking in and want to say if you are enjoying this podcast,
And you want to see it keep going, maybe it's helped you through your widowhood journey and you think that it might help others on their widowhood journey, you can support that cause by joining our Patreon.
some of the things that you get as a Patreon beneficiary are ad-free episodes, so you don't have to hear ads like this.
You also get exclusive content, and at a certain level, you might also get an exclusive t-shirt you can only get that place.
That is true. It's pretty cool. There are 4 different tiers available, so check it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
And as an extra bonus, very often you get your names read by one of my kids, and they will do a terrible job with the pronunciation. And that's like a bonus, I think.
I think it's kind of the best. I would much rather hear somebody butcher my name than say it correctly.
A child butcher it than an adult do it correctly. Yep. So go to patreon.com/WWDN to keep our podcast going and support the widowed cause.
Yes! Thanks, guys! Back to our regularly scheduled program.
I feel like you could have worn your baby in like a papoose to work, and by this time, was the baby a boy or a girl?
The girl.
She could be an excellent CPA by the time she's like 6.
I hope not.
So, were you in Texas when she died, and then that's when you moved to Utah?
I kind of bunkered down for a year and a half. So I just didn't go anywhere. And I put my son wasn't even in school. So I had to find like a full-time program for him Monday through Friday and figure out, like I said, the nannies. I just had a couple nannies where I was basically having them help me out 7 days a week. And I just paid for it because I wanted my daughter to have I didn't want to immediately put her into a daycare or something like that where she'd have to spend time away from me. So I just footed the bill and then did what I could for a year and a half and established some great friends and some amazing people. And in the end, I was deathly allergic to San Antonio where we were. So we were actually planning on moving prior to my wife's passing. And so I knew that that wasn't going to be probably my final spot. And so I just, I got a time zone closer to work. And then Utah's familiar. It's got tons of outdoor things. So I thought, well,
I hear the frisbee golf is amazing in Utah.
it's not the best, but it's okay.
Shoot.
It's there.
Sidebar, my little sister lives in San Antonio right now, and she is also allergic to San Antonio. She doesn't like it there. She's like, can
They
we
need to
leave?
post the sign as you come in that says, FYI, it's the number 5 place in the nation for worst place to live if you're an allergy sufferer. You just don't know
Oh,
it.
like
Then
you-
you go there and it's
He has
bad.
actual
You're like
allergies.
actually allergic to it.
Actually allergies.
Oh, she just
yeah.
doesn't like it. I don't think she's
Oh,
allergic
no,
to
I
it.
have cedar and mold and oak and all the things that San Antonio has. So
Okay, so you were crying and your nose was running all the time and you couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Perfect.
yeah,
Okay.
it's serious. It's like a flu. It's like fatigue and dizziness
Yeah.
also go along with it. And so it's just like you can't do anything, which is really brutal. So I was very tired of getting allergy shots and doing all the things and needed a reprieve. So decided on Utah, forced my parents to move into my basement and help me out. I told them, give me 1 year until the baby's 3, and then you can do whatever you want, but just give me 1.
Wow.
So
That's some nice parents to help you out.
yeah, they've been a blessing, and I think they started to realize it once they lived here. Like when you have kids that young, you can't even take a shower because your baby's not old enough to just leave because she'll fall and get hurt and all those things. And so now I can do that, and I can go to the gym at like 8 o'clock at night, which is awesome.
I'm really happy for you that you can shower now. That's like
That's so
a
amazing.
huge thing.
Yeah, it's a long
Hygiene is
time.
important.
It's a long time. Maybe, for the first year, it didn't matter anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just surviving.
Did you say that your wife's family was from around that area where you guys were living? So after she died,
They're 6 hours north.
oh, okay, so close in Texas terms, but still
Correct.
far. Okay.
Yes.
So after she died, were they able to come and help a little bit for a time, or was it pretty short?
Correct. They came and lived in the house for a little bit. Um, and then it was just a hard situation of everybody dealing with grief. It was their daughter as well. And I was going through all the emotions of grief, and I definitely held on close to my kids. Like I wanted to be the one making all the decisions, and I didn't want to feel like I was just left out of a lot of things. So it was just a really hard time for anybody that was in my life. Um, just because I did get very stubborn. I got angry at times where I'm not used to being an angry person. That was really challenging. Um, so in the end, I essentially asked them not to, just live in the house because they were 6 hours away, and so I had to figure it out on my own, and uh, kind of keep on going.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that because it can sometimes feel territorial, like I'm still their parent and I need help, but also I still get to make the decisions and you basically just
Yeah.
have to help me do what I want to do. And it's hard, especially when that's their daughter. And so
Mhm.
their connection to those kids is been interrupted, and then their access is through you. It's a tricky situation. But like Mel, can you imagine living with your in-laws like right after Scott died? Like it just would be weird. It'd be hard.
Well, I didn't have any kids, so I could just go in my bed and hide and never come out. I don't know. My
Yeah.
in-laws
Yeah.
are pretty mellow, but I can imagine how that would be, for different personalities and different types of grief clashing because you both lost the same person or everybody lost the same person, but the relationship is different and that's super tough.
And every part of your life basically changes, right? So I had goals with my wife of kid raising, and they were very specific on she didn't want the baby to cry basically ever, right? So anytime the baby cried, she'd go in and take care of like my boy. And then we were going to co-sleep with our second because she just really loved that idea. And she didn't work as much as I did. Like I was the one working full time, and she was really only working part time for chiropractic. And so I didn't mind as long as she didn't mind. But then when you lose your person and you have to work and you don't have a second pair of hands, you have to make unfortunate, challenging decisions that basically aren't in alignment with your previous life. And I think that can be really, really challenging on people because the expectation is still there that that level of care is provided, but it's physically, emotionally, mentally impossible for me to get to that place. So I had to make hard decisions that I knew were basically not in alignment with the way that we would have done it had both of us been alive. But um, I just chose to make it, and it caused a lot of tension and a lot of friction. Um, but I didn't know another way for me to survive and not have essentially someone living in my house full time. So that I think is just really challenging because each person like just takes aspects of the person that died and says, okay, well, I'm going to hold on to this really, really tight, and we need to honor this at all times, and it can't change. And I think there's times when things just have to change just naturally because of survival or necessity.
Was there a time period where you tried to hold on to all of that and then there was a breaking point? Or did you have kind of clear vision about that needing to change from the get-go?
Anita, I hear we have a store.
Oh, we sure do. We've actually had it for quite a while. It's called the Snarky Grief Shop, and it's where you will find all of our best grief merch. That is, yes, a little snarky. For instance, it's where you will find the official widow card that you can pull and use at your convenience.
You can put it in your wallet, and anytime you need to use it, pull it out, play the widow card.
Yeah, we have glow in the dark stickers. We have shirts that say, "Be nice, my husband is dead." We also have the ones that are not quite as jarring, so that you can wear them out in public and not feel weird. But sometimes you need that shirt.
I wear my "Be Nice, My Husband Is Dead" to bed because I'm a little scared to go in public with it. But you've worn it on airplanes before with your kids.
Yeah, every time we go to the airport, I wear that shirt because I'm just like, listen, I got to get all these kids through security. Just be nice to me. Thank you so much. And it's worked for the most part.
Some of the less snarky grief shirts are podcast shirts or Widow Wives Club. We also have Resilient AF, right, Anita? What else we got in there?
Yeah, which we're telling everybody who cares, like Mel's mom, that means American fork. Because she can't know what it really means, guys.
Yeah.
Stickers and mugs and notebooks and just cool stuff that you can use to express your snarky grief. You'll find it by going to our website, shop.widowwedonow.com. There's a lot of W's in there, so just make sure that you've counted them and there's the right number.
We will link to that in the show notes, and it's also in our app, which you can get from the App Store. Can people get it from our regular website too?
Yes, if you go to widowwedonow.com, there's a link for the shop in there too.
Great. If you'd like to show your snark or have something a little more subtle, go ahead and check that out. Again, that's
shop.widowwedonow.com.
I felt like I had clear vision of it needing to change just because I couldn't, I couldn't, I had my previous boy, was up 8 to 10 times a night when he was 18 months old. And I have no ability to do that as well as work and become a productive member of society. I'm not wired that way. So there was kind of an expectation of if I'm going to survive emotionally and financially, then I'm going to have to make a hard call. But I was trying to blend it. So I didn't take it lightly. I consulted with tons of individuals, especially, like I said, she was a pediatric chiropractor. So a lot of pediatric chiropractors, a lot of naturopaths, lactation consultants, just kind of everybody in terms of like, hey, this is the situation that I'm in and this is what I want to do. And just did a lot of research. So it wasn't taken haphazardly, but it can feel that way to other people. It can feel like, oh, you're giving up. You're not going to fulfill this section of life that you wanted. And to me, it wasn't all possible. We can't do all things and we can't be everything for everybody. So I kind of knew that. And I think in other areas, people just didn't. They wanted to hold on a little bit harder.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like harm reduction. It's like, how can I do the least amount of harm in this situation that's just really terrible?
Yes. And I think I was really cognizant to the idea of my kids really need me to be okay. And I need to make some choices that are going to be challenging so that I can survive a little bit. Not disowning them or not saying, see ya, good luck raising yourself, but some things that would say like, hey, I need some time, or I need to hire out, or I need to do this, that, or the other to make sure that dad's okay. Because if dad's not okay, then they're in a lot of trouble. Because I wanted to be there and I wasn't going to give up on them. One of the hard things was, I think, just being a man and having a baby and then having heavy opinions was challenging. I just had a number of nannies that they wouldn't appreciate what I wanted to do. And it was always like, well, we did this. And I said, I don't care what you did. This is what I want to do, and this is what I have to do. So, like, I'm going to explain to you why, but
I
man,
was gonna ask if people treated you like you were incompetent.
absolutely. Or that I don't know. Whereas I listened a lot to my wife and I read a lot of books, and so I actually know a lot, which is kind of I think it caught people off guard. Um, and then I'd get like an older nanny that was just, back in my day we did this. I'm like, well, back in your day, they smoked when you were giving birth. So let's not like think that all of the things are perfect, right? Like things can change and adapt. Um, and so
One
it
tablespoon
was
of
hard.
molasses under the tongue.
And some whiskey.
I wish that was more for dad.
That's so hard because it's such a societal, like, why would you not have the skills that you have that you need to raise your own kids? Like, the biggest skill that you need is to have that, like, just crazy amount of love for them. And every other person who comes into their lives has allegiances, isn't the right word, but has split allegiances, right? They have their own kids, they have their own spouse, they have their own whatever, and then they're kind of moonlighting with your kids. But it's like, no, my kids are my kids. Like, this is all my world and who I care about. So, like, that's the biggest, I don't know, qualification that I think a person can have.
Yeah. And it's just a hard situation, right? At the end of the day, I had to just give it up to I wasn't myself in any way, shape, or form. Things were hard. Anxiety was through the roof. That's just not an easy person to get along with either. Um, so I try to look at it as, everybody wants the best for me and my kids, but it just not everybody was the right fit at the right time. And I think I've been through 8 or 9 nannies. So I mean, it's been a challenging situation, but we're getting there, and now we're doing really well, which is awesome.
How did your brain do being at work? Because, I mean, yeah, she was sick and died, but it was so fast, it was sudden.
Mhm.
And I mean, and all death brings some sort of kind of weird memory stuff with it, but especially the shocking stuff. It's just like it takes so much time to kind of settle and to even get your bearings. How was that for you?
It's hard. I got really blessed by my boss and my company. A high up executive at my company had gone through widowhood as well. And so he really helped me out with just being someone that, just reached out and said, hey, if you need anything, take your time. Don't worry about it. Coming from that level was really, really, really impressive. And I had the CFO reach out to me. So that was, really, really heartfelt. And they gave me a bit of time. I think they gave me 4 months or something like that. It was quite a ways. And so that was really, really helpful. Um, and part of it was even just my boss saying, hey, why don't you come back and see what you can do? And I kind of needed that. I feel like someone pushing you is kind of what you have to do in those situations of, oh, okay, I, let me give it a try because I'm scared and I don't know. But, um, I was trying to do all the things. So I got myself in counseling. I got the kids in counseling. I dove into church. So my faith's really, really important to me. And so I just kind of fell in love with my relationship with Jesus and prayed a ton and cried a ton. And I didn't worry about what anybody cared. Didn't care. Like if you were going to worry about me having tears or worry if I'm upset or worry if I'm mad, you can deal with that. But it's just what I am now. And so I kind of just let everything spill out. I let everybody know when I was having more challenges. And then going back to work was just um, hard. I had prided myself on developing my memory, and then it was gone. So most widows and widowers that I talk with go through brain fog. And someone told me that there's like a chemical process that we have that when you go through something so traumatic, your body shuts out new information in an effort to reduce the amount of stress that's being further put on your body. And so you just lose memory. And so I came back and I was lost and I was confused and I did what I could. And, I'd log in and then I'd have days where I cried for 3 straight hours just trying to get through it. But
Could you still do math? I would be like, I don't remember how to add or subtract or be a CPA.
yeah, thank God I have Excel. And now I don't do as much CPA work now. I do engineering operations. So I help out with a lot of product managers.
That sounds like a
And
made
so
up
I just
thing.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's all support. Everything's support. So I support the smart guys and girls and I do a lot of Excel, thankfully, because if I had to key it in or memorize, I wouldn't be doing well at all. And
They would have
I think it
fired
was,
you.
oh gosh,
My dad
man.
was a CPA and he wanted me to take one of the classes, accounting classes in college. And I was not widowed at the time and I could not deal with it. So props to you anyway.
Yeah, we all have our own strengths, right? So that's just kind of how it was with me. I love numbers and I love businesses. So I got to know a business from like the ground up. Basically, I could read financials and know if you're doing well. And I helped
Wait,
five five businesses start.
aren't you doing well if the number is above zero and you're doing not well if the number is below zero?
Depends.
Shoot. That's my business knowledge. Mel,
Depends.
you'd be super good at Excel, don't you think? Like you could type in those numbers
I'm
real
really good
good.
at typing.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I
You could
bet.
Just,
excel at it.
ha,
Ah.
I love it.
Yeah, dad jokes my other favorite thing.
Nick, I'm wondering if you were able to find support for your situation because it's hard when you're young, you got kids, you're not like an old man. Like, were you able to find? Did you try to find support? And what did it look like?
It's it's non-existent.
Okay.
It's a huge gap, right? Either you have friends and family that are just amazing people and come by and hold you, or you don't. And there's nothing out there. Um, I don't want to say especially for men because it's really not much there on the women's side as well. It's just more predominant that a male dies than a female dies. So at a young age with kids, I there's just very few programs that really, really address that and really, really provide resources and things like that. Um, it's actually what I hope to um, one day help out with. Like I'm a person that wants to build even if it's a bad situation. Um, and so I can get into that a little bit later, but for the original question, we have like grief share and we have some components of meetups and things like that. But there's not a ton of programs. There's one male program that I found, which is called Refuge Widowers, and it's an awesome guy named Daniel, just having a retreat and introducing and making connections with people. But in terms of the day to day, the challenge, the support, mm-mm, mm-mm. There's not even groups, and even if there was groups, when when would you attend, right? Like, okay, so I got 20 minutes or so, and it's not too often common, thankfully, but it's more common than I think people realize. And I think that there's a lot of people with really good hearts. I found that there's a lot of really good-hearted people that when your spouse dies, they come up and they say, "What can I do to help?" And they really mean that. They really, really mean that. But answering that question after just losing your spouse is just like an impossible thing, right? Like, well, I need help with the kids, but I don't know how you could come out and do that. And what I found is when people ask that, it puts all of the onus on the person that just lost their spouse. So it's like, oh, I got to plan your calendar and my calendar, and I got to think of what you're good at, and I got to do all these things. Like, it's just not going to happen. It's just going to be like, thanks, right? Pray for me. I'll take that, right?
Send
But in terms of
money
like,
and
yeah,
donuts.
GoFundMe. I had a GoFundMe
Yeah.
just like most people.
Good.
Um, but yeah, it was, I guess, I guess my original thought was that there would be functionally more support. Like I just thought we'd have more, I don't know, programs or something, or I have no idea. But I guess there was a part of me that just had an expectation of, oh, you've just gone through something that not that many people go through, and it's really, really challenging. So here's something to help out. Back in the day, I heard that your house, like part of your mortgage clause was like if your spouse died, you'd just be forgiven of the mortgage. Way back in the day. And that
That
that only
that was the
exists if you buy
molasses days.
insurance now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I guess I was expecting something like that. People did amazing things though. I won't, you know, like I got 6 months of donated breast milk from Amazing Mamas, which was
Whoa.
phenomenal. So someone bought me a freezer and we filled up the freezer. People gave me so much, like they did a meal train and people were giving me food like almost every day. And that lasted for quite a while. So people did come in really, really big. It just got, after the 6 month mark, it's just that's where it kind of tailors off and you kind of got to figure things out. It's really hard you're going to be struggling at 6 months. You're going to be in a bad spot. And going out and asking people for help, I think it's even harder. I couldn't, I couldn't really do it. It was super challenging on me. So even if I needed it, I don't
Yeah.
know if I could go out and say, hey, I need this.
Especially when they've already
Um,
been generous, you're like, and can
mhm.
you can you keep doing that for me? Probably
Yeah.
for the rest of forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know about, oh, go ahead. And then I'll ask
No,
you.
that's okay. Go ahead.
Do you know about soaring spirits?
Is that local to Utah? Is that okay.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's an international, but they've got like they have regional meetups and then they also do like men's like Zoom meetings because I
Hmm.
think that men have a much harder time finding other men to
Hmm.
like have support groups with. So
Hmm.
that's
Thank
one
you.
resource. Yeah.
I
And
appreciate that.
you also need to know about the sharing place in Utah for
Yes, I'm aware of the
you got
sharing
that?
place.
Okay. Very good.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to do a little bit more research on that one because I got here in October 15th.
That's my anniversary.
That's a fun day for a CPA, October 15th. That's very appropriate.
Surprised that you know that. That's awesome. It's an extension deadline.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's yep.
Thanks, Dad.
I was his secretary, office person
Oh,
when I was in
that's
high
awesome.
school. I didn't have to answer the phone. That's probably why I didn't get fired. But yeah, I'm good at filing.
It seems like answering the phone is something you'd be good at, Mel.
I got to get in the
You're running
zone.
a podcast.
I know, but I do the editing mostly.
Okay.
Anita's way better than me at the phone.
Y'all are great.
Nick, you mentioned something that you were going to get into. Is it time to talk about that thing?
We
Did you?
can if you have time. Absolutely.
We'd
Just
love to hear
something.
about it. I don't know what
Yeah.
it
Sure.
is, but go for it.
I am this year my goal is to start a nonprofit. Um, and my goal is to have that nonprofit be almost like, how do I put it? So we have disaster recovery programs for like almost everything. And I view widow and widowhood, widow and widowerhood at a young age as almost a disaster recovery necessity. So the goal is to have a nonprofit that essentially comes in and helps support someone that's young with young kids. Um, and it takes away a lot of the pressure that I think is on you. So all of the day-to-day responsibilities, all of the calendar work, all of the who did this, that, and the other, thank you notes, tracking funds, a lot of things. I would love for this organization to basically be boots on the floor to help provide that, and then also just be there. Um, I want to just provide like 2 volunteers a day for 3 hours or something like that, to where you can just be there with them. They can pray for you, they can hug you, they can clean your pantry, they can, watch whatever you need to, right? It'll just be two people in your house so that the house isn't empty and that you don't feel like you're alone. Even if you want to be in your room and you want to cry, you know that someone's there helping out and you're not completely gone. You're not avoiding all of the things. And the most important thing I would say is like it's providing a calendar. So I want to come in with like basically a 1 year calendar where we'll be there for 3 months helping out, but I want to go to the neighbors, I want to go to the church, I want to go to your friends, I want to go to your family, and then I want to document out what everybody's going to do and put it in the calendar and have it why, like John down the street's mowing your lawn on Monday, and Tim's mowing it the next Monday, and then Jake is mowing it the following Monday, and Sally's the next, right? So your lawn's mowed for over a year. Your meals are taken care of by X, Y, and Z. Your laundry, your cleaning, something, just anything to kind of pull off these little tasks off the plate for a little bit, and then just provide some sort of a like a kind of a catch, some sort of a support beam for those people. And so that's the hope and the goal is to kind of be a prong and then to train up those around you. So I noticed that people love you. Everybody loves you. But a lot of the times they're kind of scared of like, how do I interact? What do I do? What's going to be helpful, right? And I think having people that have gone through it and say, okay, listen, your best friend or your mom or your sister, this person went through this and they probably need this and go for it. Don't worry about these things. Talk to them about, their spouse, talking about how they're feeling. You're not going to hurt them worse than they're already hurting. And then just train up all the people around, as well as like the church. I'm Christian. When you say church in Utah, everybody assumes LDS, but I'm just non-denominational Christian, and so like I'd be there for the pastors, because that's an awkward spot too, right? That doesn't happen that often, and so how do you help them out without making them feel in the spotlight, but then still do something so that you're not doing nothing. There's just a lot of resources that I feel like I'd want to bring to the table, because nobody's going to pick up a book and read about your friend losing a spouse and then prior to your friend losing a spouse. Do you know what I mean? And so it's kind of like you're in the thick of it and you have to figure everything out on your own, and nobody's just well educated on the subject unless they're a grief counselor, which is not real common. So
Or
my
they
goal
happen
is
to be some woman on an airplane who went through the same thing as you like 20 years
anybody
ago.
yeah, exactly. Anybody that has gone through the same thing can, but there's not many of us, and we don't too much wear a badge or a hat or anything like that. So it's hard to find us too.
Some of us do.
Well, Anita does. We have a shirt for that,
Is it a
actually.
shirt? That's
Oh, we got
awesome.
all sorts of
We
got all
can
sorts
get
of
you
stuff
love
like
one.
that.
that.
It says, "Be nice, my wife is dead." That's what yours would say.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's awesome. I will gladly
Wear
gladly
that
take one
shirt.
of those. Oh, rock that one.
Yep. I
Just
wear
ride
that
around the
one.
gym.
I wear that one to the airport anytime I have to
Hmm.
go through the airport with my kids because it's like, leave us alone. This is so
Yeah,
hard.
say pat down. You're like, read my shirt.
Yeah.
Yep, they just stay away from her.
As I'm like pulling all the iPods out of
Oh,
the bags and,
yep,
take your shoes off,
yep.
take your shoes off, take your shoes
Yeah.
off.
I know it came about because after my husband had died, I remember one of the first times that I got to the grocery store, which was the biggest task up till then, and it probably was
Mhm,
within the first 3 weeks, and I was like, I can't believe that I made it outside of my house. I drove somewhere,
mhm,
and
mhm,
then everything around me just was like puncturing my heart. Even people
mhm,
just like going by me too fast, and I was like jarred. Or if moms were yelling at their kids, I wanted to be like, you don't know that they might die. Someone might die.
mhm,
And so I just wanted to walk around with
mhm.
this sign that said, be nice, my husband's dead. But I'm kind of
Oh,
too chicken to wear it in public. So Anita is the missionary.
I love it. I honestly, because you just never know what people are going through. I think that that's really interesting, and it helps spur a discussion,
Oh, it
right?
makes people real uncomfortable sometimes.
Anita's
It's,
met a bunch of, not a bunch, but like some people that we've ended up talking to on the podcast because they're like, help me. It wasn't the first one was a widower,
Mm,
right? At Lagoon.
yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
your nonprofit idea sounds like a combination of FEMA and social work.
Correct.
Yeah. Like all in one.
And Excel sheets, probably,
It's
right?
it's yeah, it's FEMA's kind of the background, social work another, and then GoFundMe. Like I want to take over the GoFundMe process just because anybody can manage funds, and I'm pretty good at doing it, so I might as well have it. And then like,
Anita's shaking her head at
Not me.
herself.
I am. I'm fine. I'm fine with it.
Oh, okay. Well, we want to hear about all your successes.
Is your congregation like how is it pretty big or is it medium? Like, do you have support there enough or what's that like?
Well, because I just moved, I think it's a harder question.
Hmm.
In Texas, I guess I wanted it to be more than what it's capable of being. I really wanted the church to like, widows and widowers are we're brought up in the Bible, but not much. And it's very much an Old Testament thing, especially for the men's side. But I kind of expected the church to have a bigger role, I guess. And they have so much going on that they can't. Um, so it was a hard thing to kind of navigate. And I just dove in with like men's groups. So like I really liked talking with men about it and um, getting actual prayer for me was a big deal. It just helps out a ton. My congregation currently is a lot bigger than I've ever had. They're just growing really, really rapidly, which is awesome. I love to see the vibrance and how it's alive. And I'm just trying to figure out where my place in the church is right now, just because I'm so new and finding friends and things like that. We're just not, we haven't been here for very long. So a lot of it's just on my shoulders to find new friends or new people and
That's like a hard thing for
navigate.
adults to do in general, like to
Yeah.
Yeah,
try, like when you move a place and you don't have your like partner to help
correct.
you to do that, so
Yeah.
it's probably even harder.
You lost your safe zone. I always called her my safe zone. So we'd go to
Yeah.
some place and my social battery would empty and I'd just go right back to her and I'd be like, this is my safe zone. I can hang out here. We can laugh and hang out. And then as soon as that's gone, it's like once your social battery runs out, you just stand there and
Yeah.
stare. And then you're the weird guy standing and staring in the corner.
It reminds me when you play tag as a kid, and you have like the
Yeah.
safe place or whatever. You have
Yes.
to run
It's
back there and
gone.
like put your hand on
Just,
her forehead.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
safe.
That's exactly what I would do too. Just need to calm down for a sec and then reload.
And get
But
back
yeah,
out there.
and it's harder to do. It's just hard to do, I think, as you get older. And then definitely when you lose someone, sometimes it's just awkward I just don't always want to talk. And sometimes I want to talk about her, and that's kind of awkward. You don't want to meet a new person and be like, let me tell you about my wife that died. Like, and I need some help. You just need longer friends. And I had unfortunately moved away so many times that I have friends all over, but I don't have them like right next to me. But I'm getting there. We'll get there.
Well, Nick, I'm glad that you sat on the plane next to my neighbor and that we were able
Me
to
too.
connect. And thanks for coming on and telling us your story. And hopefully you get some roots and some friends and you feel like there's some people you can call on and you get some frisbee golf in there and some physical board games that aren't Twister.
Just call it a board game.
It's a
No.
little too
Like
physical.
I like board games. I like board games.
What
There you
what
go.
board games, what kind of games do you like? Like tell us some names of board games.
Board games?
Yeah, like what are
Oh
your board
man.
game loves?
Sure. We've been playing Dune. It's a card game. And then we've been playing Scythe a lot. And then we've been playing Star Wars. It's Imperial Assault. And game called Gloomhaven. Another one called Mansions of Madness. We play all sorts of them,
I've
but they're
not heard of any of
guaranteed.
these.
Yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. That's why I tried to preface it with something where it's not I'm not out there playing Ticket to Ride, even though I love that game. Or um
I do know that game.
what's the popular one? The
Settlers of Catan.
Settlers. Yeah, exactly. I have that game,
I feel like that's
but it's
like
just not
20
what we
years
choose.
ago, right? Like that was
Yeah.
big a while ago.
Millennials keep all of those things though. Anything that was cool back then is still cool now.
I mean, now it's just
Mhm.
vintage. So
Don't say that. I went to a
Listen,
throwback Thursday at Classic Fun Center, and they were playing like songs that I love, and I was like, ah man, are we in the oldies category now? What's
yes,
going
Yes, it's
on?
guys,
weird.
I have teenagers and
Mm,
it's weird times. And you go to the
yeah.
Spirit Halloween and they have like, you got the costumes from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I'm like, are you kidding me? No,
What are those costumes?
they're not. They're not.
Nothing. Yeah.
I'm like, no, we didn't actually wear that, guys. But whatever.
Ah,
It's not about accuracy. It's about,
no, it's
I don't know.
about dressing up,
Yes. Yes.
imagination.
Nick, we have an
Yeah,
important question to end with. And Mel, you got to ask
sure.
it.
I got to ask this, and I'm not sure if this is on your list of allergies or not, but what is your favorite cheese? And can you eat cheese?
Can't eat cheese. My favorite cheese is just a raw cheddar cheese.
All right. Solid.
I
We,
like a lot of cheeses though, so that was it's a really hard
It's hard.
discussion.
It's so
I'm like
hard, right?
Italian at heart, so I like all of the cheeses. Like I'll take any.
yeah, I'm with you, but I do love a cheddar. So you passed the
Mm.
quiz. You
Okay, thank
you
you.
you did great. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everybody has
Yes.
enjoyed listening to Nick's story. If you want to keep the podcast going, will you check out our Patreon? It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us some tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now.
And we always appreciate a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Nick.
We are just two young widows and one frisbee golf board game father of two, used to be a CPA widower on an airplane, and we're all just figuring out widow
We
do.
now.
Mel,
Yeah,
we have a major announcement to make.
go for it.
Did you know that right now all plans on Mint Mobile are what?
$15 a month.
Okay, that's truly ridiculous. Do you know how much regular cell phones are?
Yep.
$1 bazillion a month. 15 is less than that.
New customers get 3 months of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month if you sign up right now. And guess what? I use it. I love it. I've used it all over the country, all over the world, and it's great. And if you're wondering about phones, they have those available as well, or you can just port your own number and your current phone over to Mint Mobile. They make it so easy.
So if people are interested in trying out Mint Mobile, how can they go about doing that?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. And you know, it's interesting. When my dad died, we actually put his phone on a Mint Mobile plan because it kept his number going, but it was $15 a month. So there you go. And there's different storage plans, but you might as well just get the unlimited because it's $15 a month.
Absolutely. All right, go try it today.
That's trymintmobile.com/WWDN.